me about the weirdest dream you've had that you don't actually think was a dream at all.
I haven't been sure whether I should post this on your ghost one or on your dream one. But in 2019, one of my best friends died in a car wreck. And I swear to God, she showed up every single night for weeks, like in the most vivid dreams with stories to tell me, with, messages for her husband, with messages for her kids. Like I wrote her whole eulogy based on stuff she was telling me. But then it gets weirder because 6 months after that, my cousin was killed, and she showed up to me just for a second, and she rubbed my face, and she said, "My family needs you." And sure enough, her husband called me the next day to ask for help. So freaky.
The weirdest dream you've had that you don't actually think was a dream at all. I'll go first.
Okay, so me and my husband, we will be married 10 years in 2 days. We have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old. And this dream I had was pre-children. We didn't have children yet. And in this dream, me and my husband, we met our younger selves. So this is actually probably about the time that, like, the age that I am now. And in this dream, we met our younger selves. And in this dream, we were telling our younger selves, you have no idea the length in which you guys would go to be with each other. You guys love each other so much. There's nothing you guys would do to not be with each other. You guys would go to the end of the world for each other. And in this dream, I just remember it being like, it was so happy. It was so great. It was so nice. And I remember waking up, like crying, like happy tears, thinking like, I don't know. I guess I was thinking like, I hope, and I was wishing that would be true. And now 10 years later, I'm convinced that wasn't a dream. I'm convinced I was literally like, me and my husband were telling our past selves, like, you guys are meant to be with each other. You were meant to be with each other. And you cannot tell me anything else. You cannot tell me otherwise. I strongly believe that wasn't a dream. I think we were telling our past selves, because during that time, we were going through difficulties, but I think at that time, I needed that dream. We needed that dream to just like solidify, you guys are good. You guys are fine. You will be fine. We are now married 10 years and 2 days. We started out with literally nothing. We are now in a house, a 3-bedroom house with our 2 children, our cats, our dog, living our best life. You cannot tell me that was just a dream. I think we needed that, and we needed to hear that so that we can just, like, it just solidified what we needed to hear to get where we're at. You can't tell me that was a dream. It was something else.
Tell me about the weirdest dream you've had that you don't actually think was a dream at all.
Okay, I'm going to explain this as I get ready for an interview reel. So if you follow me because you like emo music, I feel like this makes sense. Like, we're all spooky people in the end of the day. So I'm not shocked by it. If you're shocked by it, I don't know how to help you. So I'm a big believer, and like majority of my family has grown up and really instilled in me like this, like there is ghosts out there. There are like demons and things of that nature. I also grew up predominantly Mexican Catholic, and I still hold a lot of those like more spiritual beliefs as well. So just to kind of keep that out. I'm literally Mexican. I don't look like it, but I'm half, and I grew up in a predominantly Mexican household raised by predominantly Mexican people. Now that explainer's also out of the way. So I was very, very close with my great-grandparents. They pretty much raised me from the time I was literally born to the time I was 14, when they both passed within about 9 months of each other. So they were down on the far south side of Chicago. If you know, you know. We're down there, kind of ish near Midway, but they had this bungalow style house. So there was this one time, probably I had to be like maybe 25 or 26, just a handful of years, like less than a handful of years ago for me. And I was going through a particularly really rough time in my life. I was just very stressed out. I was overwhelmed. I was just getting into like actually going out, partying. I was straight edge for a long time until I was 23. And I was like kind of like hitting my stride with finding like a good like group of people who like to go out, who like to party. So we all can kind of figure out where that goes from there. And I was just particularly stressed out and overwhelmed. And when I'm really stressed out or way too anxious, I hold a rosary before I go to sleep to like just make me feel better. I would also like to note ahead of time that I do have parts of my great grandmother's, at the very least ashes, that I keep near my bedside, or when my friends come over, like right on like a really closed shelf in my closet. I will also take her on trips out of state too to make me feel better, along with my rosary. So that in mind, if we've gone on trips together, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But I was particularly stressed out and went to bed, and I had the most realistic dream that I have ever had in probably my life up until that point. I also get premonitions, not anything major, not like that really bad Angelina Jolie movie premonitions, but also my great grandma got it, and other women in my family on my mom's side who's Mexican have also gotten it as well. Same thing on my dad's, but not as frequent. So that's what it felt like to me, and I was asleep. It felt like a lucid dream, but I don't like try to lucid dream either. But anyway, I was super stressed out, and I found myself in my great grandparents' bungalow. And if you know this like bungalow setup too, you know that you walk in and like the door, like the hallways can be very close to each other. Like your door's right here, and like right here is another door and a bedroom. So I had my own bedroom in my great grandparents' house. It was literally right across the hall. Like you step 1 foot in, you can be there from their bedroom. And I walked in. It was dark. I was coming out of my childhood bedroom essentially into my great-grandparents' room, but I saw my great-grandfather's bed, my great-grandma's bed on the other side, and the light was illuminated, and it was the light that I actually still have to this day that was in her bedroom. This little touch, it's a really like old vintage 1920s lamp, and it was on, but it was kind of dim. And then there's also this ceramic Christmas tree that I also have that she used to put in her room every holiday season, and that was also glowing in the light too. So I walk in and I go and I see my great grandma just hanging out on her bed, chilling. And then there's just like random red couch that like is not supposed to be there. It has never been there before, and it was very weird to me that it was there. But I ended up going in the bed, hanging out with my great grandma, chilling out, and I started crying, just like bawling my eyes out because I was just so stressed. And she was just comforting me and saying like, hey, everything's gonna be okay. You're gonna get through this. Just like stuff that I wanted to hear and I wasn't hearing from like other adults in my life at that point that I wish were there for me. And then the lights just kind of like went out, and not like necessarily like down and out, but like it got dimmer and nothing else was in the room. And then I woke up and I just felt like this wave of relief wash over me. I felt like everything was gonna be fine. I had no stressors. Nothing was wrong. Aside from that too, and any like really stressful or like upsetting moments too, I will again sleep with my rosary if I'm going to bed or anything. But sometimes I'll just be even in a room that doesn't have air conditioning on, and I'll feel cold chills go over me, and I feel instantly relaxed. And that's something that I don't tell a lot of friends or people, but I think that that's something that happens when it needs to happen. And I know that this was a very real thing because I was able to touch my great grandmother. I was able to hear her. She was like holding me, and then like she just knew how to make everything better. I can't get my friend to do what it wants, but I just dyed my hair, so I don't want to have to fuck around with it that much. Anyway, that's like my story that I think is more real than what some people want to believe. But wondering if you guys have any other experiences like that.
Tell me about the weirdest dream you've had that you don't actually think was a dream at all.
So I've been trying to talk about my dreams on here for a while, and I had a dream last night about fish people. Not like mermaids, but the guy, I think he's in like a Marvel movie where he's like an Aztec guy that lives underwater, and he has like the green jewelry and stuff. It was more like that. It wasn't like mermaids. It was like the dude, the Aztec guy who lives underwater. The dream that I had last night was that me and my dad were approached by this guy, and then he was telling us about like people who aren't like humans, that still live and talk to humans, live with and talk to humans. And he was like, okay, of course everyone knows there's like, or there could be like the reptile guys, but there's also these like fish people that not everyone knows about. And I was like, what? And he was like, do you want to go and visit them? And I was like, okay. And so we go and visit these like fish people, and like I said, they're kind of more like, they live underwater, but they're not like mermaids or anything. They just like, that's just where they live, I guess. And these people, like, then we're talking with them, we're interacting with them, but then someone asks for my name, which, if you know dream anything, no, don't ever tell someone your name in a dream. I give them a weird fake name, and they're like, okay. And I keep interacting with these people, and I keep, they keep calling me this fake name and stuff, until someone I know in real life that I haven't seen in years comes up to me, but I come up, like, find them, and I come up to them, and they're like, hey, and then use my real name, and I said, I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, oh, hey, I know you. And then I just wake up after that, because I'm in such shock and disbelief, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck did you just do? You just, in my dream, used my real name. Thanks, pal. It was wild. I have so many weird dreams. I think I'm gonna start just posting them here, because they're always crazy.
Tell me about the weirdest dream you've had that you don't actually think was a dream at all.
Oh, this is a good one. So, I get sleep paralysis sometimes. I don't know if you know what sleep paralysis is, but basically it's when you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't move. Your whole body is like frozen, and you feel like you're paralyzed, and you literally can't move. No matter what you do, you can't move. And sometimes you hear things, sometimes you see things. Usually it lasts maybe like 10 seconds, but it feels like forever, like when it's happening. It's a very rare. I don't get it anymore, but I used to get it a lot. So about like 6 years ago, I was sleeping in my bed, and I was sleeping with my ex at the time, so I wasn't alone in the bed. And I was laying on my back, which was mistake number one. You're not supposed to lay on your back if you have sleep paralysis. Anyways, so I'm laying on my back, and I wake up in the middle of the night in sleep paralysis mode. Now, because I've had this so much, usually I don't fight it. I just let it happen, and then I just let it blow over, and then I sit up and go to the bathroom, and then I lay back down. This time, I decided to fight it. So I wake up, I'm completely paralyzed, and it's hard to describe the feeling. Like when you have sleep paralysis, at least when I have sleep paralysis, my whole body feels like it's like there's electricity buzzing through it when I'm in the middle. Like I'll be laying there paralyzed, can't move, and then at the same time my whole body has this like buzzing electricity like all over it. And usually I hear like a whooshing noise, like a really loud fan like in my ear, like really loud fans like in my ear. That's usually how it is, like and like I can't move. So that was happening. So I sat up and I pushed with all of my might to push through this, like I was fighting it. I was like, oh, and I sat up in bed, and as I was sitting up, I was like, holy crap, I feel like I weigh like 1,000,000 pounds. Like it was so hard to sit up. Like I was using every muscle in my body to like fight through the sleep paralysis, and then I managed to sit up. So I'm sitting up in bed, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, okay. And so then I swung my legs over the side of the bed, and I looked down at the carpet, and I'm like, all right, let me go use the bathroom and do whatever. So I sit up, and I'm like thinking something feels weird. Like I feel like I'm still like half asleep. So I'm like, whatever, I'll go check the clock in the kitchen. So I go into the kitchen, I look at the clock. It's like 11:30 at night. It's not even that late. And then I go and check on my newborn baby. So I go into the living room and I look in the pack and play, and I'm like, oh, okay, she's fine. And then I look out the window, you know, okay, that looks fine too. So then I'm like, you know what, I don't really have to pee. So then I turn around, and like, mind you, this is like not even, it's not like it's 2 in the morning or nothing. It's like 10:30 at night, you know, like what did I say? It's like 11:30. Anyway, so then I walk back to my bed, and I fucking kid you not. I kid you not. Oh my god, I get chills every freaking time. I walk back to my bed, and I'm standing there in the doorway, and I look at the bed, and guess what's in the bed? Guess what is laying in the bed? I literally said out loud, holy shit, and I started saying it over and over again, because I'm like looking in the bed, and I see myself laying there, clear as day. There is somebody laying in the bed, and it's not my ex. My ex is laying in the bed, and then next to him, there's me, like, laying in the bed, and I'm like, oh my god, like, I literally almost had a panic attack just standing there, and the first thing that I thought was, I need to get out of here, so I'm like, obviously, like, I'm dreaming, or, like, I'm having an out-of-body experience or something, but, like, right then and there, I'm like, I need to get out of this house, I need to get out of here, because, like, I didn't want to see my own, like, you know what they say, like, when you see yourself, like, it means you're gonna die or something, so I'm like, I need to get out of here, so I raced down the stairs, and I raced out the front door, and I don't really remember what happened after that, but I just remember that once I got outside, I was like, well, now what do I do? Like, and then I'm like, I think I'm dreaming. Like, this isn't real. Like, this is a dream. And at that point, I don't remember anything else, but I just remember it kind of turning into a dream, like a really lucid dream after that. So I'm like shivering thinking about this again. But yeah, so ever since that experience, I have been, I pretty much had a midlife crisis after that. Like, the next day I woke up and I was like just so disturbed. I was like literally everything we think about the world and like how dreams are and like reality, like I was like I sound so crazy, but I was literally like thinking, like, what is real anymore? Like, I don't know, I was mind blown, and I'm still mind blown. And to this day, I have not experienced, I think I've experienced that like maybe 2 or 3 more times after that happened. And ever since I, you know, moved on from that partner, and ever since I moved into a new house and moved into, like, and got married and everything, I have not had an experience like that ever. And like, I have had sleep paralysis in forever. Like, I literally, ever since I started taking Lexapro, I haven't had any sleep paralysis whatsoever. And I've been on it for like 4 years now. So it's been a long time. And, you know, every time I'm laying down, I'm like, oh, I hope I get sleep paralysis. That way I can get out of my body. But it just like never happens anymore. And it makes me sad. Anyways, follow me and like this video because nobody likes me and I kind of suck. So, yeah, I'd love to tell more stories. I've got so many dream stories. I love dreams. Dreams mean a lot to me. A lot of my dreams are very like realistic. There was one time that I think I was actually remote viewing, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. Anyways, bye.
Tell me about the weirdest dream you've had that you don't actually think was a dream at all. I'll go.
When I was a senior in high school, I took a psychology class, and one of the courses within that class was a dream course. So for about a week, we had to keep dream logs. So anything that we dreamt, anything that we remembered, we would wake up the next morning and log it. Well, I remember one night I had a very vivid dream of this girl that I worked with. We both worked together at a local restaurant here in town. I had this very vivid dream of her, and mind you, the dream is in front of the restaurant. Like, I remember that very specifically. I remember her pulling up in this beautiful cherry red El Camino, right? Very specific. And these were things that I wrote down in my dream log. So she pulls up in this beautiful red El Camino. She's in the driver's seat, and I kneel down like window level to speak to her. And I remember in her passenger seat, a woman was sitting there, but the woman was black and white. Like, if you turn on an old TV show, the black and white, kind of fuzzy looking, not very clear, whereas the rest of the dream was Technicolor. You know what I mean? The rest of the dream was very vivid, but the woman sitting in the passenger seat was not. And that was pretty much the entirety of the dream. So the next morning I wake up and just like any of us do, I check my phone. And at the time I had Facebook and I was friends with this girl on Facebook. She was in a car accident that night. Fortunately, she was okay. The car that she drove at the time, I want to say it was like a beater Toyota. It wasn't anything fancy, but she totaled it. And I wrote that in my dream log because I remember thinking, well, that's really weird, like the connection with that. So I go into school and I show my psychology teacher, and she explains to me that this is more of a premonition. She was like, this wasn't really a dream, especially considering that you specifically dreamt about her in a vehicle. You woke up to find out that she was in a car accident that night. So it was very strange. I don't really have any more information outside of that. Like, you know, she was fine. I don't know if she ended up getting a new car. I doubt it was a red El Camino if she did end up getting a new car. But yeah, it was just very strange, the specifics of the dream of her being in a really nice car and this weird woman sitting next to her. And yeah, so probably not the most interesting story that you'll see about dreams, but that's my story.
Tell me about the weirdest dream you've had that you don't actually think was a dream at all.
I grew up in a house that was extremely haunted, and one of the main things that would happen was I would experience the spirit of this little girl named Carly. And when I first started seeing her, I was seeing her in dreams. So I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would see her in my room. And she was this little girl, maybe about 8 years old. She was wearing a red dress. She had blonde curly hair, and sometimes she had a teddy bear with her, and she would just be standing there and she'd be like waiting for me to wake up, and she'd be like, hey, do you want to come play with me? So I would be like, yeah, sure. And I would get up out of bed and I would look back in the bed and I would see myself still laying in the bed. So like I would know that something was really off about it, but for some reason in the dream I would always go with her. So she would lead me outside to this really creepy crawl space that was on the side of our house, and she would open the door and she would say, get in. And at that point I would get hit with this like even worse sense of dread than I had before, like something really bad was going to happen if I went in. So I would say no, and she would start screaming, like ear-piercing screaming, and she would be crying and her tears would be like glowing and like silver, and it was this whole thing. And I would usually like feel like I was getting sucked back into my body and I would wake up. So the story does not end there. So I also heard the voice of a little girl in that house several times, and so did my mother. One time we were in the kitchen together and it was just the two of us home alone, and we heard a little girl calling Mom across the house. So a short time later, my family moved to the state capital for about a year, and my older brother and his wife moved into that house while we were gone, and they had a ton of experiences. But one of those experiences was my brother's wife woke up in the middle of the night, saw herself sleeping in bed, and saw this little girl in the red dress looking at her asking, do you want to play with me? And when she said no, the little girl started screaming and started crying, and it was terrifying. So another interesting thing is that sometimes the dreams didn't always go the same way. Like it would always like start and end the same way, but the things that would happen in between were different. So sometimes she and I would have a conversation, and in this conversation I asked for her name, and I'm not going to say her full name here, but she told me her first, middle, and last name, and her first name was Carly. So when I was in middle school, my best friend at the time and I would ghost hunt in my house a lot, and we got EVPs that said that entire full name, like clear as day, said Carly and then middle name and last name. Now I have searched this name all over the internet. I can't find anything about her. So not sure what that's about. But that is how she identified herself to me. And that is how she identified herself in EVPs. I have had a lot of other really intense spiritual experiences through dreams, but that is like probably the first one that I ever had. And it's just so impactful because it didn't just affect me. It like affected so many other people. So many other people had the same experience. So yeah, I still wonder to this day who Carly was.
Tell me about the weirdest dream you've had that you don't actually think was a dream at all. I'll go.
So I have an experience very similar to this. I have a few, but this one is by far the craziest one. So for some backstory, back in 2009, one of my friends passed away when we were very young. Unfortunately, in my small hometown, a lot of people didn't make it past their teens, 20s, early 30s. It's a very tragic town, but that's another story for another day. Anyway, in this dream I had, I'm walking through a enchanted forest. It was very brightly lit, but like that calming, warm light that makes you feel at peace. And I'm walking, and out of nowhere, this friend walks out of the bushes, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm stuck. I'm just looking at him, and I can't believe what I'm seeing, because this is maybe a few months after he had passed. Actually, I think it was like a year or two after. I'm sorry, I'm horrible with time, but it was some time after. And I'm just like stuck, and he has this urgency about him, and he's like, oh my God, Andrew, I'm so glad I found you. I was hoping I would find you. You need to give this to my mom. Like, you need to tell her I'm okay. I know she trusts you. Like, you need to give her this message. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, I'm so stuck. Like, I can't understand. And he's just like, please give this to her, please. And he's handing me this box. It was like a big white rectangle, and I open it up, and he's just reiterating to me like what he wants me to tell his mother. And the box has this beautiful, magical looking dreamcatcher in it, a white dreamcatcher. And when I go to close the box, I wake up, and I'm just like, what the fuck do I do with this? Like, I saw his mom often, and I knew I had to tell her. I just didn't know like how to, because I knew it could get her upset, of course. So the next time I see her, it was maybe like a week or two later, and I'm chatting with her, and I'm like, listen, like, I'm about to tell you something, so just like brace yourself. It might make you get upset, but I don't think you should get upset about it, because I think it is coming from a good place. And she's like, okay, I'm ready. So I'm like, so the other day he came to me in a dream, and he wanted me to give you a white dream catcher. And her face just drops, and she's like, Andrew, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, when he was a little boy, he made and gave me a white dream catcher. And we both just fucking lost it. Like, we both started crying, but it was like happy tears in a way, because I know that wasn't a dream. Like, I know it wasn't.
Tell me about the weirdest dream you've had that you don't actually think was a dream at all. I'll go.
I feel like I astral project. Usually my dreams are like pretty normal, like nothing out of the ordinary. But sometimes I have this like dream where it's like everything has this like pink tint to it, and it's usually like in my house or like in my grandparents' house, and there's people who are like there, but they're not interacting with me. Like you see me, I see you, but it's like, do you really see me type of situation. And the last time it happened, I basically remembered to ask, like, oh, what year is it? And then I ended up seeing somebody and they were like, huh, yeah, you can't.
Tell me about the weirdest dream you've had that you don't actually think was a dream at all. I'll go.
Yeah, I can't think of one at the moment. I came here for, do you have the pattern for that top, ma'am? Ma'am? Did you make that top? If so, do you have a pattern? Can I buy the pattern? Ma'am, that top is amazing.
Tell me about the weirdest dream you've had that you don't actually think was a dream at all. I'll go.
So when I was in high school, I dated a boy who had an older sister. She was a grade above me. And we were relatively close because we were close in age and we had some of the same interests and everything. One night I went to bed and I had a dream that she had died in a car accident. And it was a very vivid dream. I still remember all the details. But at one point in the dream, it felt like she was airborne. And then when she landed on the ground, you just kind of, I don't know how to explain it. You just had that knowing and understanding that she had died. At the end of that dream, I got woken up with a hysterical phone call from my boyfriend at the time, her brother, and I was the first person that he called after his family was informed that she had died that night in a car accident and that she had been ejected from the car and had died on impact because she broke her neck. And there's no way I could have known that information because I was at my house, he was at his house. I don't think I've ever told his family or him that story because I didn't want to freak him out. I don't think I told anyone that story. But yeah, I've had a few instances like that as far as dreams and even like real life happenings that I can't explain. It's just weird. But if you're interested in hearing those, let me know.
Tell me about the weirdest dream you've had that you don't actually think was a dream at all.
So my stepdad passed away in November of 2014. We were very close. It was absolutely tragic. It was completely unexpected. Our entire family was just in shambles about it. Now here's the thing is whenever anybody in my life passes away, whether they're just an acquaintance or somebody close to me, they visit me in a dream. I will see them at some point in one of my dreams. And it's not like it's not like I'm dreaming about them. We make eye contact, like I know they're dead. And they wave and it's usually like you good? Maybe we exchange words or whatever, but I knew when my dad passed away I would see him within a couple weeks of him dying. So when the time came and I finally got to see him, I ran up and hugged him and I was so excited to see him and I was sobbing, I miss you. And he's like, I love you so much, like you'll be okay, like this will be okay. And I just said, it's just not fair. And he's like, I know it's not, it's okay, Bethy. And so he started taking me around to like different people to apologize to, like people I'd wronged through my life. And so I was apologizing and then I was like, why am I gonna die? Like why am I like making amends with these people? And he just looks at me and I said, I'm gonna die. And he said, everybody dies. You have to make sure that you are going and resolving these issues throughout your life. Because if you wait to the end, look how many you've already had to do, so I get to the last person and I'm like, I'm not doing it, no. And he's like, Bethy, you need to go apologize to them. And I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not doing it. Because if I do, you're gonna leave and I'll wake up and I want to spend more time with you. And he said, you only get as much time as you get. And he gave me a hug and he told me, tell my grandbabies I love them. And it was very emotional and I miss them a lot. But another funny story with my dad when it comes to dreams. This is not my dream, okay? I'm going to share this, and I don't even care if this guy hears me share his dream because I fuck him. I don't like him. So my narcissistic parent, after my stepdad passed away, started seeing somebody, like this was years later. They got engaged, and I don't like this dude. He's a dick. He's an absolute asshole. But their breakup just makes me laugh whenever I think about it because he said that my stepdad came to him in his dream and told him to run. And he looked up and there was my mom's house with this dark, almost like smoke, but it wasn't on fire, coming out and from this house. He said it was the most terrifying thing he's ever seen, and he broke up with my mom about it. Now, could that be a lie? Possibly. I didn't hear it from him. I heard it from my narcissistic parent. But if you know anything about a narcissist, they're not going to tell you something that doesn't paint them in a positive light. And this does not paint her in a positive light. So that means that it probably was worse than the story she told us. Like, she was trying to tell us like how like ridiculous and like what a stupid reason for him to break up with her and all this stuff. And to me, I'm just like, my dad was looking out. Even though he was an asshole, we didn't like him. So maybe my dad was looking out for us, and we didn't have to see that guy. I don't know, but I just thought that was funny. So yeah, my dad likes to go into, my stepdad likes to pop into our dreams and talk to us sometimes. That's all.
Tell me about the weirdest dream you've had that you don't actually think was a dream at all.
So a while back, one of my roommates died, and we did not handle it very well. We meaning me and my other roommates. And the night of his funeral, we were back at the house afterwards, and all of his friends from the suspension group that he was in had come through the house and just taken all of his stuff out of the room, which, okay, like that has to happen. But between that and his sister coming and like putting down his dog earlier that week, it was just really, really devastating that we had nothing left of him in the house. And we had a really rough drunken night of screaming and crying and yelling at people and breaking things, and it was just a really tough day. But that night, me and my friend, my other roommate, we slept, so there was 2 living rooms. There was like the big living room, and then there was 3 steps down, and there was a little den. And off of the den was my roommate's room, the roommate who had passed. And in the den, there was a couch and a bed, because we had a lot of people come through who were too drunk to drive, and we would just let them crash on the bed or the couch or whatever. So my roommate and I decided to go to sleep in the den that night, because we didn't want to sleep alone, and we just slept. I think I slept on the couch and she slept on the bed. And I had a dream that night that I was sitting on the couch. I was where I was in the dream. Like, I was in the room that I was in. Everything was the same. The only thing that was different is if you look down the room into my deceased roommate's bedroom, all of his stuff was still there in the dream. His bed, you could see his bed through the door. You could see his posters on the wall. Everything was still there in the dream. And dude just comes walking up to me out of nowhere. He just comes up to me. He sits down next to me on the couch, and he just tells me, he told me something really important, but I couldn't remember what it was, but I think it was something along the lines of, I'm happy now, I'm good, you guys need to chill out, because we had just went really hard and freaked out really bad for hours on end. And I remember I was just like, my reaction to seeing him was, what the fuck, dude? We all thought you were dead. Because that's how clear as day he was in this dream. Like, the dream felt real. It felt like I woke up and he was there and I was talking to him. And I just remember in the dream realizing that, yes, he was dead. Yes, it was real. And like, this is what he's telling me. And I just start crying. And as I'm crying, I wake up and he disappears and all the stuff in the bedroom is gone. And I woke up sitting up crying. And it was so weird. And my friend, who was sleeping on the bed next to me across the room, had a very, very similar dream the same night. So I honestly, to this day, believe that he came and visited us. I don't know if it was a dream. I've never had a dream like that before or since.
Tell me about the weirdest dream you've had that you don't actually think was a dream at all.
Okay, so I feel like I'm going to sound a little crazy, but this was something that I remember very, very vividly from like, I think I was maybe like 2-3 years old, and I don't know how I remember this, but like my entire childhood, I swore up and down that this was not a dream. It did not feel like a dream, and it was just crazy. So I went to bed one night, and so we had these bunk beds, and it was, my sister was on the top bunk, and I was on the bottom bunk. And I got up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. And some reference points, my mom had these two creepy clown porcelain dolls that wind up and they like rock back and forth to like this creepy little like tune. So keep that in mind. I'm walking out of my bedroom door because there's a closet door right here, and then the bedroom door is right in front, and then my bed's over here. So I walked out of my bedroom door, and as I was going to walk out of my door, the porcelain clowns were standing there staring at me. And I got scared, so I turned around and I went to run back to my bed, and I felt something grab my legs and try to pull me into the closet. My closet door was open, you know? And this is why I don't sleep with the closet door open anymore. I can't. But so something was like pulling me in, and I'm like holding on to the door frame. And I don't know, I guess after a minute, like it gave up and just let me go. And so instead of going to my bed, I bolted out and went down the hall and ran, and I was banging on my parents' door. And I remember because their light was on underneath the door. I could see the light coming through underneath the bottom of the door. I knew they were still awake. So I went in their room and I went to sleep with them. Well, the next morning when I woke up, I was in their bed. So was it or was it not a dream? Because everybody told me, they were like, oh no, that was just a bad dream. You just had a nightmare. But why did it feel so real? Explain that.
Tell me about the weirdest dream you've had that you don't actually think was a dream at all.
Mine's more of a cosmic horror dream. So, in the dream, me and a group of people, one of them being my husband, end up at this place, and it looks like an abandoned building on the inside. So we go in there, and we all hear a voice in our head that says, go through that portal, and you'll know the truth. Portal looked like a door frame without a door. So we all walk through and we're presented with this vision all at the same time of this building, this big industrial-sized building made out of human bodies. And they're alive. And they're screaming in pain. Everything around the building is beautiful. Green grass, blue skies, birds chirping, you know, all that. But then this building made out of people hurting. And the voice said, this is what happens to all the souls on earth. This is where everybody's going to end up. Everyone I know and love is going to end up in that human machine. He said, not you though, to me. Not you though. Your soul's going to come over here when you die. And they showed me a red and blue planet. And I didn't know why. I didn't know why I was different. And I was going to be without everybody I know and love. Everyone I know and love is going to end up being part of that scary building. And then we all walk through. We all wake up out of the vision. And they're like, huh, that was weird. Just move on with their life. But I don't know. In the dream, it stuck with me. And in real life, it stuck with me. I've thought about that dream ever since. That's it.
Tell me about the weirdest dream you've had that you don't actually think was a dream at all.
So I have a story that's a lot like this. When I was a senior in high school, right after the school year started, my grandma passed away. And I was extremely close to her. I would call her every day after school. And even now, at 46 years old, I still remember her phone number because of that. When my grandma died, she died very suddenly. She had diabetes and wasn't treating it. And it caused the walls of her heart to weaken and thin out. And basically, it makes the heart kind of explode in your chest. And once you've gotten to that stage, there's no going back. She would have needed a heart transplant. And so when she died, it happened so quick and so suddenly that there was no saying goodbye. And I can remember the day before, calling her on the phone and having her tell me that she wasn't feeling well and she couldn't talk on the phone. And that was really unusual. She always made time for me. So she must have been really quite sick to tell me that she couldn't talk to me. And when I came home from school the next day, it was really late at night. I had had a play rehearsal, and we hadn't had the chance to talk. And I did my homework and fell asleep. And in the middle of the night, my mom came down to my bedroom and told me that my grandma had died. And because I didn't share my grandma with my siblings, at least not my sisters. My brother was just a little boy at the time. It was a loss that only I was feeling within my immediate family. And I had talked to my grandma every day, quite literally every single day for years. And all of a sudden that was gone. And dealing with that relationship being gone was really hard. And so I did the only thing that I know how to do, which was just to talk to the air in hopes that she might hear me. And I did that through my whole senior year of high school. And when I graduated, my parents picked up our family and moved us across town. And my sisters started going to school in another school district. And I was living at home, working and going to college a little bit. And I was trying to make an adult life for myself. But it wasn't easy. I didn't have the best relationship with my parents because that's what happens when you're 19 years old or 18 years old and, just trying to begin making a life for yourself. But you're sort of still under their thumb, under their roof, within their rules kind of living. And so I was in this transition state of life. And one day I came home from work or something and had a particularly hard time. And I don't know why I was struggling, but I was struggling. And I remember sitting on my bed as I was getting ready to go to sleep and just talking to my grandma like I normally would. Only this time I think it was like, I really wish I could just see you and talk to you. And I went to sleep. And my mom had just bought me a brand new bedspread. Brand new. It had just been put on the bed like that day or the day before. And so it was still very clean. And I went to bed. And then at some point, I was out in the front of my house, standing there in a pair of shorts, which is all I sleep in. And I remember feeling the chill of the air, like that evening air that just, everything cools off. And being cold, feeling cold, having goosebumps. And then my grandma was standing there with me, and she said, "Are you ready? Let's go." And I said, "Where are we going?" And she said, "Let's go." And she reached out her hand, and I grabbed it, and then all of a sudden we were in her living room. But it was dark there too, and I could see the streetlights coming in through their big picture window that they had in their living room. But the lights weren't on. It was clearly the middle of the night. And I was standing there in the center of the living room looking at her. She's standing next to the chair that she always sat in. And she said, "I just wanted to bring you here to tell you that everything is going to be okay." And I don't know what I said to her. I probably asked her more about that. And I remember hugging her And of course, I'm crying. And I could feel the texture of her sweater that she always wore. She loved this sweater. It had big, wide sleeves, and it didn't go all the way down to her wrists. But it had this rough cotton texture that was just really unique to that item. And she wore it every day. She hardly ever took it off. And I just remember feeling that and feeling her, hugging her. And then I woke up in my bed. And when I woke up, I was so startled that I sat up and started to get out of bed because I didn't know what else to do. I was like, oh my God. And so I go to get up and I pull the covers back and my bed is covered with dirt. And I was like, where did all this dirt come from? And I realized that it was on my feet. I have absolutely no explanation for that. There wasn't dirt on the floor. There wasn't dirt on the new bedspread. It didn't come with dirt. And I didn't wear my shoes in bed. So I don't know. No explanation whatsoever. It had to have been that it wasn't really a dream.